Good evening, friends. It's a pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Ahmedabad Management Association to a different kind of talk, a role of consultants in industry transformation in the era of G20 presidency. So during this important phase in India's history where you got a presidency of the G20, there are a lot of events under G20, U20 and other events. So anyway, and we have today a panel of very distinguished speakers, highly experienced, representing academia, consultants, corporate persons, and, over the years we have got rich experience in different fields. So we will have a great take-home in there. So without wasting any time, I'll briefly introduce them to you. Dr. UK Srivastav, an economics PhD holder, worked for about 20 years at the IIM Ahmedabad before starting his own consultancy firm. He has published over 33 books and more than 50 journal articles and has more than 45 years of consulting experience in countries in Asia, Africa, and he has been involved in various World Bank consultancy organizations. Dr. Srivastav is also an accomplished member of the various organizations, including being the past chairman of IMCI Gujarat chapter and the national vice president of IMCI. By the way, I missed mentioning that today's event we have jointly held it with the IMCI Gujarat chapter. Next, we have Mr. S.B. Dangayach, whom many of you very well know, is in Ahmedabad, a distinguished alumnus again from the IIM Ahmedabad with 45 years of corporate experience in leadership positions, and now a founder trustee of the Innovative Thought Forum and the national vice president of Arogya Bharati. He serves as chairman of the Environment and Plastic Image Committee of the Plast India Foundation and as an independent director of boards such as GMDC and GSAL. Mr. Dangayach is also on the board of governors of Oro University, Surat, and also our AMA's governing board. And he's an advocate for integrating all health and medicinal sciences for the improvement of public and personal health, with a particular passion for homeopathy. Additionally, he supports green, clean, and sustainable development and empowering micro-enterprises through initiatives like the Vyapar Sutra. Very recently, he compiled an anthology of pragmatic ways toward Atmanirbhar Bharat, featuring articles from 75 India-centric thought leaders. Then we have a professional, a chartered accountant, Mr. Jignesh Shah, and he is a certified management consultant with over 3 decades of significant and varied experience, and is the founder of a chartered accountancy firm that provides professional services in various areas like corporate law, financial management, FEMA, and many other advisory services to his clients, both in India and abroad. As a registered consultant with the Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, and the World Bank, Mr. Shah has more than 2 decades of experience in implementing and executing development projects. Additionally, he has 25 years of experience delivering training programs at universities, government organizations, and multilateral development institutions. Our 4th speaker is Professor Rajesh Kikani, very much from Ahmedabad, again a very, very rich experience in strategy and entrepreneurship, enthusiast with a BTech from IIT Kanpur and a PGDM from IIM Ahmedabad. That was a very initial batch, 1978. He has 35 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, and he was at senior positions in the Cadila Healthcare, now known as the Zydus Life Sciences. And currently, he is an adjunct faculty member in the strategy area at Nurma University. He teaches subjects like mergers and acquisitions, management consulting, global management, strategic management, and entrepreneurship, and advises MSME units on strategic issues. Finally, for today's discussion, our Sutradhar, well-known Mr. Sunil Bhai Parekh, hardly needs an introduction, is here, but I'm doing my duty, I have to give his introduction briefly. And he's a strategic advisor to 2 Indian multinationals, namely the Zydus Group and the Jubilant Bhartiya Group, and is an independent director with various companies. He has attended the COP27 in Egypt and several B20, U20, and G20 programs, and is a founding curator with the World Economic Forum and member of the global group, the Value Web in Geneva. He is also the India co-chair of the India-UK Partnership Program, Tech Exchange, and works extensively with startups, incubators, and angel funds. Parekh is a vice president of the Gujarat Institute of Development Research and a board member of several academic universities, including IIT Gandhinagar. He is the founder chairman of the PINE IIT Gujarat Alumni Association, associated with various NGOs. I'll invite Pradeep Bhai and Unmesh Bhai to felicitate our today's speakers, and then I'll hand it over to Pradeep Bhai for he will talking about the IMCI, please. ગઈકાલે બંચ કરીને મૂકી દીધું અહીંયા. લાવો જુદા પાડી દો તમે આપતા થાઓ. તમે પણ આપી દો. આપી દો. Unmesh, बाकी या श्रीवास्तव साहब तुम्हारे हाथ में ओके चलो तो आई हैंड इट ओवर टू यू थैंक यू सर PPT is here it's coming okay thank you all is there okay.
Good evening, everyone. So, wish you all happy Akshaya Tritiya and Ramzan. Okay, and this event is a collaborative effort between AMA and Institute of Management Consultants of India, that is IMCI. So, I am here representing the IMCI Gujarat chapter and take you through a brief presentation on what is IMCI, what is IMCI is all about, what is its mission, and what are the benefits if you become a part of IMCI, and also, most importantly, how IMCI as a forum helping or adding value to the management consultants fraternity. This is my agenda, and it will be a very brief presentation to you. So once again, I welcome all of you to the, this very, very important and very contemporary in terms of a topic, role of management consultants in transforming industry in the era of G20 presidency. So what is IMCI is all about? IMCI is the apex body of management consulting professionals in India, being the only registered institute established in the management consultancy firms and practicing individuals in the country. It is constituted in 1991. IMCI was formerly known as Management Consultants Association of India, which was founded in 1963. And in 1989, IMCI became the first Asian organization to be accepted for membership of the ICMCI, which is the International Council for Management Consulting of India, the global apex body of management consulting institutes. So what is our mission? What are we here for? Our mission is to promote excellence in the profession of management consulting by providing learning opportunities, generating and disseminating knowledge through research, certifying competencies, building corporate awareness and emphasizing ethical behavior so as to ensure that the profession is accepted well, recognized, respected as providing a valuable service to all categories of organization in the private, public or NGO sectors. So you may ask, what are the benefits if I am part of IMCI? The benefits being part of IMCI is to be a better consultant, to learn new skills, shares international best practices, demonstrate commitment to excellence and ethics, very, very critical and important for a management consultant, find opportunities for business collaboration, stay abreast of trends and industries, collaborate with other consultants and projects. And most importantly, IMCI offers CMC credential, which is one of the globally accepted credential for the management consultant, which is called Certified Management Consultant. So let me dwell a little time on what is the CMC is all about. CMC is now internationally recognized by over 50 members of the ICMCI Global. CMC is granted with a rigorous process of assessment conforming to the Amsterdam standard adopted by the International Council of Management Consultants of Global, of which IMCI is a leading member. Those member consultants who clear CMC are entitled to use suffix CMC, which stands for Certified Management Consultant, a widely recognized certification across the world. So CMCI is a very, very important credential we offer from the IMCI forum. In addition to it, to propagate or to bring in more consultants into this emerging opportunity, IMCI runs a very successful program with the objective of imparting basic management consulting skills, and the course is called EDMC. EDMC is also recognized by the Consultant Development Center. The EDMC is an autonomous program of the IMCI. Any graduate from a recognized university who's interested in learning the process profession of management consultant are eligible for this course. So this is how we add value to the consultant industry per se. So with this, I would end my talk, and I would now hand over the session to Mr. Sunil Parikh to take over from here on.
Hi, hello. Good to see all of you. I trust all of you are either existing management consultants or aspiring to be one. Both ways, I hope today's session will really be good. One thing I have learned over the last, I'm almost 70 now, a little younger than Mr. Pahuja, where, wherever there are large economic changes that take place in the economy, the role of management consultants actually increases quite a lot. And this is really the crux of the matter. If everything goes smoothly, then that entire period is devoid of problems and VUCA and the volatility and all the associated dangers with it. And this time around, what we have seen in the last 3 to 5 years, and particularly over the decade, that a lot of changes have taken place. And in fact, I would like to draw your attention to 2 or 3 major ones. If you look at the year 2023 and a little before that, you remember we are all passing through COVID, and in fact even now there is S3N2, which is, and yesterday Delhi announced that masking in Delhi is now going to be compulsory. So it has not only left scars, but it is also continuing to do the damage, which is something was a major change in the way we worked. The second was the Russian war. It destroyed 2 things. It destroyed the supply chains and it caused problems in fuel and food. We are not so much affected because we are by and large self-reliant, but the many parts of Africa have actually had major food shortages as well as fuel shortages because of the war. Again, another area of very big change. As a result, government spending has gone up in most of the countries. And whether it's a big company or a small company, whether it's a big country or a small country, everyone has had to take additional debts. Now this debt has now come home to roost, because when you have this extra spending by the government to control the event, whether it's medical expenses, whether it is livelihood, whether it's support to MSMEs, all this money that is injected into the economy causes inflation. As a consequence of inflation, the RBIs all over the world, all the central banks have now started tightening the regime in order to contain. This increases the cost of operations for manufacturing companies and actually doesn't help the growth of industry because of the high rates of interest that people are facing today. But the idea of the central bank in the world everywhere, they have only one goal, and that is to control inflation. If growth suffers in the process, then most of them turn a blind eye to it. I think the Indian Reserve Bank is a little better than most other reserve banks in the world. The climate change crisis is another one that is happening almost simultaneously. We saw 1/3 of Pakistan immersed in water, 1/3 of the country. They require $8 billion to actually solve the problem. They are already in debt and they have not been able to pay their national debt. Consequently, they are going around with a begging bowl, and their Prime Minister in the UN conference said, I have once again come on behalf of Pakistan to beg for more money. This was his opening line in the United Nations. Only Saudi Arabia and China have come forward to give $3 billion each. They are still short of $1.5 billion. When this happens and they are able to recover from the flood, the development agenda ke liye to paise nahi rahe. There are 31 countries in the world who say that we will not exist if the temperature crosses 1.5 degrees centigrade, because the slope of the land is such that the water level increase of 1.5 meters, which is the consequence of 1.5 degree temperature increase, will submerge these islands. That means there is an existential crisis. Now, these are the kind of problems. Germany has had flash floods, China in the north had flash floods. So there is a huge crisis, and people are learning to live with a new factor called the risk approach and risk management and risk assessment, which is again one very big area that has emerged now as a consequence for management consulting. Now, recently you heard the banking crisis. Interest rates have gone up, so banks which had put money in buying bonds, suddenly mark to market they are running losses. And when you go to withdraw the money, they have to dissolve the bonds, so they have to book the losses. So Silicon Valley Bank, Citizen Bank and Credit Suisse, which is supposed to be one of the hallmarks of the 10 international safe banking, also collapsed in the process. Now this has a huge ramification across the world, but we don't trade so much, we don't borrow so much, we are insulated, and therefore we in India are not feeling the pains of this entire exercise. The West is experiencing recession. UK has experienced recession. Europe has just about avoided recession. Recession is when 2 consecutive times your GDP decreases, then that is called a recession, but they have just managed to escape. Now, given this, all these entire thing, the fiscal room for governments to act and do something for their countries is reduced. Consequently, there are problems in trade, there are problems in financing development, reaching the SDG goals, and therefore the scenario has become very dull. And when you go abroad, the mood is very down. Unlike in India, where we are very optimistic, 5.9, 6.5% growth, we may touch 7% next year, etc., etc. So the world outside is quite different from us here. After all this has happened, simultaneously there is a wave of technology changes. There is AI, there is IoT, there is blockchain, and a whole set of new technologies, including ChatGPT, which has destroyed and made all the universities, schools and colleges to think once again, how the hell are we going to manage the education system. Regionalization has increased, globalization has gone down. 20 years ago when Maran was there and WTO, everybody was gung-ho in globalization. We are now going back to, again, huge opportunity for management consultants. First, how to go abroad and export. Now, how to reduce your exports and how to get all your imports and get your raw materials locally. So, management consulting role has been a very, very important role. It has helped shape India in very many ways. Yesterday, both Dangayach and I were at a conference on building hydrogen systems in India. And very few of us know exactly what is involved in hydrogen, except for very large companies, and you have to depend on consultants. And we had a beautiful presentation from people who told us what is hydrogen, how much will it cost, is it practical, will it be successful, is it the solution for the future. We learned all that yesterday as one area of climate change, and decarbonization and net zero are other huge areas. So today, friends, we have a wonderful panel. Satyanarayan here has managed Syntex for many, many years extremely successfully. After that, he runs a new forum called Intellectual India Thought Forum, India ITF, Innovative Thought Forum, sorry. And he's contributing a lot in terms of publications and new thinking. And we also, on my extreme right, UK has been a very important face in agricultural consulting and in international and national consulting. It's been introduced very well. So I would first request, since Devanshu here, let me introduce you to Devanshu, who is sitting quietly. Would you please rise? He is the national president of IMCI and Gujarat chapter. And we also have Pradeep Bhai, who is ex-pharmaceutical genius and is now also the current vice chairman, if I remember, deputy chairman of IMCI here. And we have the past president here, also Bharat Bhai, and national president. I'm sorry. Wow, sorry. He was before my time. You see, I'm a young man. So today we have a galaxy of people. Everybody is allowed to contribute their own views and thoughts in this important area. And I personally believe that it's a very big area. Devanshu, thank you for getting the G20 program and the logo and the branding for this. And I was very, very happy about this, that we will start with UK Srivastav. If you can give us an overview of what is G20 before we go into the substantive portion of this. UK 7 minutes flat, huh? 7 minutes, huh, Professor?
Friends, first of all, I would like to thank the AMA and also the IMCI for inviting us to this panel. And when I was listening to the chairman, I thought he is discussing all the problems that are being discussed in 200 meetings, currently in the G20. So almost he summarized what is going on. Friends, I think, as you know, the group of 20, or G20 as it is called, is the premier forum for international cooperation on most of the economic aspects and financial aspects. Now, this forum brings the advanced countries and most of the emerging large economies of the country. There, India is also a part, and China, Indonesia, and Argentina, and so many others, which are also, and Brazil, because Brazil is going to be next president of the G20. So it's a group of 20, which is an EU, 19 plus EU. So that's the kind of, which has 85% of GDP and some 80% of the trade. So it's almost a world at large, And I'll explain to you that Modi ji has expanded it further. So now this is no longer 20, its number has gone to almost 30, 35. So that is possible. Okay, the objective, what is the objective of G20? G20 objectives actually were formed when it was instituted in 2008. That time the financial crisis was there, so they had formulated these policy objectives and of G20, and they remain the same today also. The policy coordination between its members in order to achieve global economic stability and sustainable growth. Then to promote financial regulations that reduce risks, prevent future financial crisis. Future financial crisis is because that time it was there when it was there. And to create new international financial architecture. That remains valid even today. This, like I said, this started in 2008, and since then the chair is revolving. Each country, 1 year it remains the chairman, and they have a management group. That means past chairman and the future chairman, three of them form a management group. In this case, Indonesia, and incoming Brazil is our part of the management group for India. So now we are chairing this year, and each country is given freedom to formulate the themes when they are there. So India is also given the freedom, and it has chosen the working to promote universal sense of oneness. Hence, they have taken the theme, one earth, one family, and one future. Okay, now India's priorities are sixfold. They have formulated the priorities. Green, first is the green, climate, finance, and life. The second one is accelerated, inclusive, and resilient growth. Third one is accelerating progress of SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030 of United Nations. Okay, technological transformation and digital public infrastructure. Fourth. Fifth is the multilateral institutions of our 21st century. And the sixth is women-led development. These are the 6 priorities that India has decided. Now, these priorities are going to be implemented in discussions through the 3 tracks. One is called Sherpa track, other one is called finance track, and third one is called engagement groups, which is not a formal member of that, but it is a supportive group. First 2 are the formal groups. Now, Sherpa track actually is most important. It carries an important planning negotiations, implement tasks continuously to reach a consensus on key issues to address the global challenges. This will be responsible for putting up the final paper in the September when the summit takes place finally in India. Okay, finance track is the responsible for coordinating finance ministers, central government governors, and G20 member countries who are to discuss the fiscal, monetary policies, international trade, financial regulations, and infrastructure financing. These are the areas which finance track is doing. Now, and before that, I must tell you, this Sherpa track has 13 discussion groups, 13 discussion groups. The finance track has 12 discussion groups. And these groups meet several times. For example, agriculture, if you take, there are 4 times they are going to meet. 3 times they have already met, and 4th time they will meet in June. It's like that every discussion group has several meetings. Okay. Then the engagement group has been kept just for this, gives the civil society organizations, business associations, other non-governmental stakeholders forum to develop policy proposals for G20 members to consider. It is only supportive. Okay? And the objective is to encourage discussion between stakeholders of G20 and representatives to make sure that all points of views are considered during the G20 decision making. Okay, geographical coverage. Every country, when it is the president chairs, it takes the meetings to different cities. China took it to some 40 countries, 25 countries. China took it to about 25 countries, and like US took it to 12 cities, 25 cities, 12 cities, and Indonesia took it to, again, 25 cities. Now we are taking it to 56 cities, and spread over all the states, 28 states, and 8 union territories. So it's just across India. Now we have expanded it. It was our choice, and we have done that one. Idea, of course, hidden agenda always is there, that to explore the showcase our achievements in culture and artifacts, art and culture, and also the development, development of infrastructure and all those things, so that showcase the world, so that tourism can take place as a follow-up, So every country does that. So this is what we are doing, and so 56 cities spread over 28 states and 8 union territories. Okay, now what the management consultants' role is. It has 2 stages. One is that while the discussion is going on, every group has 8 to 10 management consultants associated with it, listed. Okay, if you look at them, each one of them has, and they are going to work till the September. And their task is to provide research, policy, and coordination support to G20 presidency, and further align the G20 agenda with the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development goals. And immediate task is to include supporting development input papers, issue briefs, identify concrete deliverables and outcomes. So currently each group has 8 to 10 support systems, which are management support systems, which are going for 8-9 months, going to do this kind of task, which are already listed and which are doing. More important is when finally the meetings are over and recommendations are adopted in September summit, which will be the last of it for India. That is where they will hand over to Brazil. That time there will be thematic recommendations and all that will come. Then there will be a lot of government to government tie-ups, business to business collaborations, technology transfers, investment proposals. So all this will follow. This is what we are expecting. And this will open up opportunity for management consultancy on a long-term basis. Would be called upon to help organizations solve issues, create value, maximize growth, and improve business performance, including the new era of ESG, which is another upcoming area. It will also open up the responsibility, the opportunities for management consultants overseas too. Africa and all that, everywhere there will be the digital, for example, is in great demand. Financial, whatever we are doing, architecture is in great demand. So all those things are, and the value chain we are talking about for benefit of other countries like Africa, that all is in great demand. So there will be a need for opportunity for management. Just now I created a value chain in Zambia, for the African Development Bank, from farmer to departmental store. All that was built, not left to the things to happen. It's a part of the project funded by Feed Africa program, for which I was chairman. So that is what is in great demand, will be in great demand. So all this will open up new opportunities. But now the question is, I think our Pradeep ji has already mentioned about IMCI, what it does, and so on and so forth. Great challenges. Our companies are very small, you know. Can they scale up? Can they train more people? That is a problem. Our consultants, our not very great exposure to the databases, they do not have great exposure. The size is very small. So all those things, I think, it's a task cut for the IMCI to do something about it. So those questions also we'll be discussing. So all these opportunities we'll discuss as we go along, I think, in the thematic these things. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, UK. Very, very comprehensive overview of everything, including some aspects of the emerging opportunities. So now we are going to have 4 topics that we will discuss amongst all of us. And Pradeep ji and Devanshu, please feel free to come into the topics because you can also add from your own experiences. The first topic is about opportunities. What are the opportunities in management consulting, both domestically and international? And we have fortunately people here from both sides who have experience of working abroad, from India, working abroad, for abroad, and working purely domestically. So first we will do the domestic markets and the aspects of those. The second topic we will cover is what are the challenges in management consulting? What do you experience? What are the difficulties you face? The third is how do you create value for your customers, whatever it may be. And last of all, we will then have a short Q&A following that, given time permitting, so that all of us can participate. So without much ado, let's start the first topic of what are the opportunities in the domestic market, in the private sector, in the governments, in the local governments, the public sector undertakings, the universities, the R&D, and so on and so forth. So let me start on my left with Satyanarayan, Mr. Dangayach, for his views, followed by Professor Kikani.
If you look at the opportunities, I think we need to go to the employment scenario in the management institutes. Look at IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta, and all those places. And I believe, I may be wrong, so I may be right, and Professor Srivastav can correct me. 30% of the graduates in IIM Ahmedabad, over 30%, have gone to work for consulting companies. Why MBA from IIM Ahmedabad or IIM Bangalore or IIM Kozhikode is valued is because of an all-round understanding of the business and the ability of the graduate to assist some senior people there in the respective companies to kind of contribute to consultation business. In my opinion, consultation, coaching, mentoring, all of them are part and parcel of, I would say, leveraging or monetizing the knowledge that you have got. In our Ahmedabad, Gujarat, or maybe the other states of the country, I believe the consulting business as a whole has not been understood. So I personally think that IMCI has created a wonderful platform in terms of a certification course, and then obviously telling the world that the people who are attached to IMCI and have gone through the certification course are trained, are skilled in providing consultancy to the respective organization. So there is a big opportunity for the trained consultants to help the industries, particularly in the medium or small scale sector. The big, I would say, firms would prefer to go for Big 4 or Big 10 or the other established people. But when we talk about the small to medium companies, they are really having a genuine skill gap, knowledge gap, which can be filled in by the consultants. So private sector will be really benefited if consultancy business is correctly promoted. This is an out of the box suggestion from my side that we need to create a market, we need to create a business potential for the consulting business. That's the first thing. Second thing that I've noticed is that the graduates from IIMs and others may be averse to working for the government directly, but they are the ones who are consultants to the government departments. For example, Ministry of Health wanted to have consultancy for XYZ program. The whole program was created, cast and run by probably a battery of 100 people who were working with, the one or the other, the big firms. So this is an opportunity which government had given to the big firms. But if there are the people who are skilled at doing business with the government and public sector undertakings. Srivastav ji is very adept, Jignesh bhai is very adept. But doing business with the government and, obviously the PSUs is a very different thing. So that is something which also should be understood. Third thing is G20 is obviously a great opportunity, and we are glad to have the presidency. But whatever is being done in India, that particular knowledge has to be taken outside of India. Great opportunities in consultancy, like it could be digital technology, it could be, say, climate change, it could be renewable energy, where India has got tremendous amount of ability. The enterprises here do not, they possibly know how to take it, and that is what the consultants can do. Consultants, in my opinion, have a huge, say, opportunity at this point of time because of the fact that our owners who are supposed to be, say, conducting themselves as managers are not innately aware that their organizations can run much better if they are able to, to get knowledge from, the consultants, and then also have them to, to carry out the implementation. So I'll stop at this and we'll talk later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. After Danga, I can not add much always. But nevertheless, I think when we are talking about opportunity in the consulting industry, there are a couple of data points which we must refer. What's the size of the consulting market in India? How many people are already employed? If you look at the consultancy related magazines, it says that the market size is around 30,000 crores. It's growing at around 30% CAGR. 30% CAGR. And we have about 2.2 lakh people already employed in this particular industry. These are the data points which are the reference point to say whether what sort of opportunities that we have. Let's add a few things to these data points to understand, because why I'm saying this, sir, is largely from my experience in teaching this subject. You see, when we have been teaching this subject for a very long time, but I got associated about 5 years back. Nirma is not the IIM level of Tier 1 institute. We are Tier 2 institute, Tier 3 institute. We are NAC accredited A+, so we could say easily we are Tier 2 institute. No consultant ever came to Nirma. Because all the four, the BCGs, Baines and Company, McKinsey's, they would not come to India. We had a lot of difficulty convincing them to come to India because they have their own recruitment procedures. Somehow we got through because for 3 years we pursued, we got our institute registered. And I'm happily surprised to say that last year we have placed 35 graduates in the consulting firms. 35. And now it has, I continue to maintain that it is not because of what we have taught. It is because of the requirement. And that is where the opportunity lies. Where does this demand come from? And typically, and as an academician, I would always say that it comes from the width and depth of it. I mean, it's very easy to make that statement. It's a little more interesting to explain this statement. Number one is that we have been knowing that the center of economy is moving from west to east, right? So lots of business is getting transferred to the eastern side. India and China both being the, so to say, beneficiaries. China is not exactly at a very positive stage at this point in time, but they have been all this. And they are the ones who have initiated this transfer with the benefit of which is now going to come to India. Because of whatever reason, number of reasons, including alignment of supply chains and etc. etc. I mean, we need not. So the business is shifting. So individual corporations will become bigger corporations. And when individual corporations become bigger corporations, there is an opportunity for consultants to step in, because larger, there is not, they don't have a core competency of doing well in everything that they do, and they need people from outside. That is one. Now, the width part of it. All these new topics which Sunil said, the climate change, the sustainability, artificial intelligence, based business models, automations, you name it, and all these things are opening up areas because consultancy is basically a knowledge-based industry. These are not the industry, people are not aware about sustainability. They will have to be taught, and the consultants are best placed because they invest in it. I met one of our students who was placed with BCG. I went to ask him, भैया क्या कर रहे हो? I mean, we go for pre-placement for talks. I said, क्या कर रहे हो? He said, sir, I have opted for joining the sustainability team because I see the future here. And these are the opportunities which are coming up. So both width and depth wise, we are opening up. We already have a critical mass, which is 30,000 crores is not small, about $30-40 billion is a reasonable size of an industry. So we have a good enough opportunity to capitalize on this particular thing and take it forward from here. This is how much I would like to pitch in for beginning as far as the opportunities are concerned. And thank you so much, Sunil.
Friends, I think domestic opportunity is enormous. The lot of our consultants, I think they are not even aware, they are not even registered properly and all that. For example, World Bank and Asian Development Bank, all of them have whatever projects they give. Okay, first they require a project report. Then once this thing is completed, then you go for appraisal. And after appraisal, once the loan is granted, then there will be PMC, project management consultancy. So one project yields 4-5 different major assignments, So like that for every, and even the private sector also follows the same kind of system. The banks have also rationalized. But real problem is are we aware, are we capable of doing that? Not capable, but are we really organized to handle the task, First of all, we don't register properly and we're not called for. Then even if you're registered, in now World Bank has also, and Asian Development has not, they're not following that compulsion. But a lot of Indian assignments now, they want 5 crore turnover. Before that, if you have 5 crore turnover, only then you can apply. So this all has been made by 8-10, which are large companies, They have tried to induce the governments, this is the kind of condition you should put there. So they are also putting that. So the real problem is to generate local consultants, They increase their capability, increase their size, then only they can follow the opportunity. Okay, friends, I think I've been following, coming back to G20, I've been following 2 sectors, the discussions, whatever is going on. One is the agriculture, and other one is the infrastructure. I think unless somebody else does that. So huh? Okay, so we'll do that. So these 2 sectors, when time comes, I think if the chairman permits, I will explain to you what is happening in agriculture sector, what discussion going on, and what we expect eventually. And so also the infrastructure. The big thing in infrastructure is the corruption. And a lot of discussion is going on in corruption. I've got a paper which is submitted by UN, various stages of corruption in developing countries in the infrastructure sector, and how to combat that. They have got solution for that also, and that's what they are discussing now. It's a big time because India itself, Gati Shakti, if you take it, you require $500 billion. Where is the money? So it's the private sector has to come in. The pension institutions have to come in. How to involve them? So all that discussion is going on. I'll follow it up. Okay, thanks.
How is the Josh? Thanks IMCI, thanks AMA for inviting me. Being an odd chartered accountant in the company of a management consultant, my seniors, my gurus, IMCI, I am too odd. And our chairman really selected me because ideas execution comes to a chartered accountant. In financial part, ideas are there, but if you implement it financially, you have to go to a chartered accountant, but jauh pade कि भाई पैसा क्या थी लो ideas तो आ गया से. Okay, so let me discuss about as I talk to him, we'll take the sectors in the second round. But first is there are globally opportunities, collaborative part. I'll go back to the history. There were big eights. Anderson was gone because of the Enron. And I think I'm purposely thinking that it has come to big four, it will be big three. Because recently, yesterday, if you must have read the report, Infosys was downgraded 13%. Deloitte, yesterday, for his safety, has said into the National Stock Exchange, there is some management responsibility of the auditor, we are publishing it. So as an auditor, we will be questioning it. Now, before that, I'll brief you that what is happening as a globally. Before that, I'll ask you what is happening in Big Four. You need to collaborate it. But why you need to collaborate it? So I made some point. Big Four. Have you seen the office of Big Four? चकाचक सर चेयरमैन ने बोला वो चकाचक रेंटेड है कि ओनरशिप की है रेंटेड है जबकि यहाँ हम 5 बैठे वो और नहीं ऑफिस तो आपका होना चाहिए so first point is they never want to invest into an infrastructure. They would always like to go for it. I have made some 5 points. I'll briefly do it. Second important point is tax compliance. क्योंकि मैं ये स्पष्ट बोल रहा हूँ हमारे टैक्स कंप्लायंस इतने स्ट्रांग है ना कि वो घबरा जाते हैं एक सिंपल एक एग्जांपल दूँ प्रोफेशनल टैक्स डिले हुआ था प्रोफेशनल टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट की नोटिस आई थी हमारे 2010 के प्रोजेक्ट में उनने उसके पार्टनर को घबराहट हो रही थी compliance के लिए so that is we have a very stricter compliance I'd like to bring to your notice people are complaining about tax compliance बहुत ज़्यादा है लेकिन I fully appreciate income tax कितना % है हमारे यहाँ 30% go to US 46% go to Europe 48% still they are that means tax compliance उनको समझ में नहीं आता है तो वो नहीं चाहते हैं कि हमारा they don't want that their presence should be in India so that's a tax compliance they don't want more of a headcounts because layoff is a big problem. That's the number 2 point. They doesn't want to have a fixed expenses or incurring in an infrastructure, cost benefit analysis, and government processes. Big Four or other consulting, they are not aware about government processes. अगर आपको finance department में जाना हो तो आप किससे मिलोगे? Finance secretary को मिलोगे कि finance के नीचे वाले को? Big Four कहते हैं नहीं, we will like to meet as a finance secretary only. Finance secretary तो आपको टाइम देगा कि नहीं देगा so these are the factors wherein this consulting international consulting would like to collaborate it you can just see the website Srivastav ji also said it ADB or World Bank there are lots of Indian projects coming up jointly with say ABC Consulting or ENY jointly with Srivastav Sunil Parekh etc tap that opportunities the reason is the model has changed for the development institution as well as the private sector. Development institutions are giving two-way marking for the projects, technical part and finance part. Technical part, if they say there is no domestic association, immediately while submitting RFP request for proposal, you are out. So that is one of the opportunity one has to grab into a development institutions. Just like when, before coming it, I was discussing with them that we are some 6% or 15% shareholders of a development institution. So as a compulsion, member, we need to take some projects, which can be either a technical, which can be a grant project, which can be a loan project. So there are going to be opportunities which are going to be collaborated. So if you go to a development institution project, World Bank, there are going to be international as well as a domestic part. Now coming back to private sector, many of the international companies wants to have a presence here. They do want to project, but I mentioned 5 points. They don't want to do it. They are always looking for local consultancy. It can be either a process improvement, due diligence, etc. All the, I cannot define the area, but these are the areas where they will look for a local consultancy. And with G20 pressing it, there are going to be ample opportunities for collaborations. It can be, you may not be leading it. For any kind of project, you may not be leading it. Big people may join you and you need to collaborate for the part. Okay? So I think that's the first part. I thought that there are going to be a global opportunity. Look for it. India is a potential pit. Second phase, when I'll come to it, I'll explain you that what are the sectors around there. Thank you, Chairman, sir.
Thank you very much. So we now have a good idea about how the size of the domestic market. We are adding 10,000 crores, which is 1/3, 30% of 30,000 crores every year. So the market is very big. In addition to that, there are numerous opportunities coming, as Srivastav mentioned, from the G20 side. plus from collaborating as an Indian consultant, a local consultant for all Indian projects with multi-aided projects, whether it is the USAID, whether it's DFID, and various other institutions like World Bank, ADB, and the multilateral agencies. Now let's look at the one more granular step going deeper, where specifically in this big picture of 10,000 crores domestically and these international collaborations, where specifically are those sectors where opportunities are going in a big way. So to what the sectors are many, and we all know that we are growing, but we have expertise in this very panel in the area of, he has a very strong background, Rajesh. He's spent a lot of many years in working with the pharma industry, and so also is Pradeep here. So between the two of them, I would urge you to now reflect 2 minutes each on how big and how important is the market for pharma. That's the first vertical. After that, we'll go to the second vertical, which is agriculture, where UK has spent his almost better part of his working career. The third is environment and entrepreneurship. And we have a genius here who really has done phenomenal amount of work in this area. The fourth is in the area of FDIs, and where, you know, Jignesh has done a lot of work that a foreign company is coming here, something that Mr. Modi sitting there has done, something that I think Bharat Bhai here also has done, and a lot of other people have done this kind of work. But it's a very important area. China +1 means FDI into India. Now they need help. As he said and as Satyanarayan said, you know, these people don't know, they need help. And the last sector we will cover, if you have additional amount of time, is this whole aspect of risk. How does a company do risk management consulting, knowing that you can have 7 risks that have happened? Pandemic and disease is only 1 out of the 7. But every company has to now find out કે બહુ વરસાદ આવશે તો આપણે અહીંયા ફેક્ટરીમાં પાણી આવવાનું છે કે નહીં, and will the transportation stop? Nobody has checked, and they won't be able to do it. They will need help external. So let me begin first with the pharma sector, and over to you. Pradeep, you want to go first?
When we talk about the industry opportunity in pharma, I would say that it is probably, you know, one of the best in terms of size and growth. Because I'm sure yesterday, you know, some of you must have seen in the Times of India first page, yesterday's Times of India. There is an investment of 139 projects have been approved, and around 7,000 crore is the kind of 7,000 crores is something what the projects have been approved by the FDCA locally. So that is a news item. So how do I look at from the point of a consultant opportunity here? Because when I work with a lot of small business opportunity here in Gujarat, we call India as the pharmacy of the world, and I would call Gujarat as the pharmacy to India's pharmaceutical market. Because 55%, more than 55% of manufacturing of pharma products happens from Gujarat. That is statistics it shows. And manufacturing, we have tremendous capability. At the same time, we do see a lot of organizations or business owners who would put in money in the manufacturing. But they saw that there is a good of opportunity in terms of profits, etc. But after some time, they would look at it, okay, everybody is putting tablet, gel, syrup, ointment. But they don't look at what are the kind of products I have opportunities to further manufacture and give it in the market. So there are business owners who would put money and they have manufacturing unit, but they don't have a proper business plan with them. So how do we as consultants can help over there to give them an opportunity? This is a market, these are the molecules which are growing in a particular therapeutic area. So can I offer him a better business plan to him so that he is aligned to the market, so he doesn't suffer? After some time, he does not have business development, he was finding it difficult to grow his business. This is where one opportunity which comes in. And I would also look at it from the point of view of opportunities for bulk drugs. And we have a major competition coming from China, right? And we have most of our intermediates which are used for bulk drug manufacturing is imported from China. And if you look at it, some of the vitamins, basic vitamins, B12, vitamin A, vitamin C, their intermediates are still, we are not self-sufficient to manufacture. They still come from the Chinese market. So here is another opportunity which probably if there are owners or there are proprietors willing to put in terms of project, these are good opportunities to again come up. This is where a consultant can play a major role. And I do play a very important role in terms of, I think Parik Saab mentioned about running a business, but I think Dangayats have also mentioned about how do you build capabilities in your people? Yeah. You have people, but do you have capable people, or if you don't have, how do you bring capability in them? So I do a lot of capability building programs for the domestic pharma, especially the small business owners here. I work with a lot of business owners who does not have an R&D operation, but they may be operating in 4 states, 5 states. They are slowly expanding. So that is why I felt, with my experience of 30 years in the industry, I would add value to them. There are big companies here, Torrent, probably Sun, probably Torrent, Intas, and probably Sidus, where I was part of it. But when I look at opportunity today, the opportunities are for the small business owners. And there is a tremendous need for them to help them to create a proper capability building for their teams so they become successful and the organization start growing. These are the few things I thought I will share, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pradeep, you have covered most of the thing except the front end, where I would like to definitely say that these high-end biotech products, absolute opportunity, global opportunity. In biotech, there is no restriction. And there is a huge opportunity for introducing anything from hormones to monoclonal antibodies to whatever. So I think both product-wise, pharma is now a global industry I mean, there are at least $10 billion companies in Gujarat which are operating internationally, and these opportunities are multiplying. Because you see, as you grow, the opportunities grow. If you are very small, it's very difficult to, and you have very rightly pointed out, in this industry, there is also a huge opportunity for MSMEs. Because all MSMEs have potential, they need help to tap that potential. And I think very well said. I have nothing more to add.
What you would like to add something on environment opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, there are huge opportunities in climate change. And obviously, when you are talking about waste, say to resource, and you start, say with solid waste, you start with even, say sewage, for example. Treated sewage is something, which can go into the institutions, a huge opportunity. Since, say I'm talking to the consultant community, I must say that we have to also educate the government authorities who are not even knowing about, for example, cost of treating wastewater. If you go and ask Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, what is the cost of treating 1 cubic meter of sewage? Answer will be that we do not know. If you ask them, what is the cost of collection of solid waste? They will not know. So everywhere, I must tell you that when we are looking at consulting, we have to also awaken their minds. We have to also ignite the minds of the policymakers that they are not aware about even the basics of costing or pricing. And that is the reason a whole lot of these businesses which are today not being done can become big businesses where the consultants will play a role. The second thing is that when we are looking at climate change, it's a whole lot of, the green, clean and sustainable technologies. And that is where I, personally think that some of the, Ayush solutions can become huge consulting as well as regular businesses. And in my opinion, Ayush is the next generation business. And Kikaniji, I will talk to you, and Pradeep Bhai, I'll talk to you later why I think so. India has, has adopted 2 slogans for G20. Since we are talking about G20, first is life, lifestyle, correct? That is the first thing, that the lifestyle for environment. And secondly, they have talked about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and in both of them, if you really go to see, Ayurveda and homeopathy will be providing the world the health solutions. Because when you look at antivirals, there is nothing in allopathy, that can come through, with this. Or you look at, maybe the other things, there can be. So this is the second thing. And third, the thing that I would like to add, that waste is a resource at the wrong place. A lot of businesses can be built, and consulting opportunities in that particular sector are also enormous. So I'll stop at this. Thank you.
Friends, I think I've been asked to talk about what is happening in G20 in agriculture. I must tell you that all the discussion in agriculture, there are 4 meetings in agriculture scheduled. 3 have already been completed, and 4th one will be in June, where the agriculture ministers will meet. Focus is on the goal number 2. Goal number 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals reads like this: end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. That is a goal number 2 of the 17 goals of the United Nations sustainable goals. Now, this is where the problem is when you're talking about the sustainable agriculture. That is where we are talking about natural farming. That is where we're talking about organic farming, and all that is happening. But problem is the increasing productivity of every crop. In our case also, our productivity is not at par with the international averages. Okay, even our case. And Africa, if you go, the worst, when you talk about 10 tons here per hectare of rice or something paddy, they talk about 0.3 tons, in Zambia. We're in Zambia, 0.3 tons. So that is a level, of difference, and that is where, so increased productivity is one of them being talked about. Then lot of wastage, wherever the wastage of uncooked food from farm to consumer, and cooked food. We are the second largest waster of food, cooked food. Cooked food, after America, I think we are the second largest waster. So that is also being talked about. How to avoid this wastage, what can we do internationally? So increase productivity, decrease wastages, and then create value chains. Strengthen value chains from farmer to this thing. And lot of companies come to us, they say that, all right, we want to process this, but can we have contract farming somehow and create design the raw material, designer raw material which I want. That is what, how can we get it? That is a problem, because our case, the value addition is only 10%. While rest of the world, they talk about 80 and 70 and 80% are produced is value added, processed. In our case, it's only 10%. So there is a lot of scope, a lot of companies are willing to do it. Wherever they get up, informal contracts are going on. But they are always afraid, but what will happen, we might falter or something, you have heard the three. So these things are being discussed, how to increase productivity, how to avoid wastages, and how to create the value chains and in contract farming, which can enable the industry to get the designer raw material which is required for processing. Believe me, that lot of raw material which is being processed, which required for processing, is not the same which we eat, Take tomato, for example. Tomato which we eat, the red-looking, good-looking, juicy tomato, is not to be processed, Processing, we want a tomato which can, if you hit my head, it should break into two, TCS. So processing varieties are different, and therefore the industry is constrained. How do you? That's why you find adulterated ketchup and all that and so on. So this is an area where agriculture is going on. Another small area, if Chairman permits, I think I'd like to talk about infrastructure. Infrastructure funding requirements are enormous. Okay. And that is where I think Jignesh Bhai would also talk to you. Infrastructure funding, that is where a lot of discussion is going on, and multilateral institutions only can support us. And those which are in long-term fund management, only they can support us, and private sector has to come in big way. Multilateral institutions come in big way. Because there is a mismatch, The commercial banks cannot give you for 40 years and 30 years and 20 years. World Bank gives only 40 years, for 40 years the loan. But our commercial bank will be so unhappy to give you more than 10 years. They are more comfortable in 5 years. So 5 years infrastructure doesn't pay back, So therefore, infrastructure requirements are enormous. And our case and other countries which are being discussing, the emerging countries, that is where the problem is. And another big problem is the corruption. Implementation of project. There is a complete document, the detailed document, if any one of you read, they have submitted, the UN has submitted the way the corruption takes place in every country, country by country, and how in various stages from project document, when they write, they still write specific requirement, which can be bought only from that country. From there, this corruption starts, and then implementation and so on and so forth. So they have got every stage, what is happening and how it can be digitized and checked and so on and so forth. Very, very nice document, they have got, the UN has submitted, So infrastructure is a big area. There is a mismatch between the commercial bank cannot cope with. It is only the multinational banks which have long-term lending and the pension funds private sector, private public sector PPP project, only those can be. So all those discussions are going on. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jignesh bhai. If you can throw some light on what are the opportunities for FDI consulting, as well as the sort of risk consulting that has emerged on the block.
Thank you. Before I start the opportunities, let me give a light of for the infrastructure. Now, commercial banks have stopped giving to infrastructure because there has been a lot of defaults. There is a lot of risk management around there. So the new avenues which are coming around there, which I did for one of my small client in tier 3, it's more like a land parcel. How the land parcel infrastructure projects are going on. Government, I cannot name the city or a thing because I have been signed as a fidelity and secrecy report. But I'll give a brief thing. Say in a tier city like a Nadiyad, the government wants to refurbish their hospital, refurbish their public schools. They will call a tender and they'll say, okay, you refurbish my hospitals, etc., which may cost you around about, say, 50 crores. Against the same thing, I will give you some land which is in the mid of a Nadiyad, where you can build malls and etc. The client for which we are doing it, it's a tier 3 city. It's not tier 2 or tier 1. They have done the land part, they have done the reconstruction of government buildings, hospitals worth 70 crores. Against that thing, they are building a mall worth 100 crore rupees. They themselves have to build it. There is some legal around there where they put up a thing that those LLP which have been awarded for refurbishment, reconstruction of government facilities like hospitals, they only will be given the land, and on that land you can build your own infrastructure. So PP and coming back to the government part, there has been a lot of funding on the PPP model. You must be seeing 140 crore na population ma 13 crore to 13 crore income tax payer che. So they adopted this modality. Okay, you redevelop my Surat station. Against that thing, I will give you the equivalent land around there with a 3 or 4 year contract, where once you complete it, the land will be given to it. So the infrastructure part, this is the new opportunity government has framed it, because there were two difficulties. 10 years project was not doing it. Now let me come to the 2 points. FDI and merger and amalgamation, a big opportunity. Why FDI? With banks now becoming tighter, National Company Law Tribunal taking 4,000 cases if you are a defaulter of earlier 1 lakh, now 1 crore. Even I filed for 1 lakh, my fees were received. I took them to the NCLT and then out of the court settlement was there. But now with the COVID part, they have announced 1 crore. Banks now becoming tighter. I don't want your loans around there. That's why the FDI is getting emerged. FDI is getting emerged because it's a net debt company. I'll just throw you around what are the benefits. Many of the things are there. It's more like stimulation of development, exchange rate, increase in exports. So these are some of the benefits of foreign direct investment. Earlier, many of the routes were under government approval. I still remember when in 1991 I was doing a textile project. Just for remittance to Swiss franc for the textile company, I need to get the approval from the bank, then I need to run to the Reserve Bank of India, and I need to get the, okay, ye approval aa gaya hai, then the funding was there. Now it is quite liberal. Though the budget, government put up a loophole and they have put up a tax on it. Okay, if you are traveling, if you are education, they are finding a loophole that I can find the revenue. That's a different story. So that made the entrepreneur quite clumsy, that why should I go for it? Actual entrepreneurs were being deprived of the loans. That's why the FDI has taken as a initiative for the thing. I'll just take a 2 minutes around there. So that is, if you see from April 2000 when the liberalization started till September 2022, there has been 615.2 billions of FDI. I can tell you there has been for last 6 months, April 22 to September 22, $26.91 billion FDI, and it has come from highest FDI was in the service sector. Then came the trading, then came the chemical, etc. was there. And who is funding? From where does the FDI is coming around there? Singapore is leading, Mauritius is leading. Okay, so it's more like a UAE is emerging around there. Then you have USA, Netherlands, and Japan. These are the countries which are lending the FDI to the entrepreneurs around there. So this is one of the FDI which is emerging part. I'll just throw it, what has been the FDI share. FDI inward of percentage of GDP. If you go as a OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which was 24% in 2005 to GDP, has gone up to 50%. If you go to OECD countries, I'll just give 3 worlds, and if you go to European Union, it has jumped from 30% to 63, European Union 27 countries 30% to 63. Touching to G20, 2005 FDI to GDP was 19%. It has shot down to 38%. Coming back to India, 6% to 18% only. It's still low, it's still low. If you see the past figures around there, we are still low. We need to touch around there. That's why government has relaxed norms. Many of the sectors are under automatic approval. You just get the FDI, do the compliance with the regulatory part, and etc. There was a problem. I take a FDI, every state has got its own norm to do it. Now government has brought up a window that in case of regulatory part, there is a common window where you file the regulatory regulations and your FDI is approved. So this is just a snapshot of where we were just 6% in 2005, FDI to GDP. We have just increased to 16%. We need to, G20 if you see it, it has G20 countries are 38% of GDP. So I think quite low. We need to at least touch down to 20%. Even if we get a 20%, our cash inflow or the entrepreneurs may have it. So that's one opportunity. It's a good opportunity. Entrepreneurs need to have it. Singapore, I still remember earlier the FDIs were in the range of $10 million, 15. Now some of the entrepreneurs in Rajkot, which we did it. He said, I don't want this. I just want only $500,000. Can you arrange for $500,000? I talked to Singapore fellow. He said, okay, if there are no venture capitalists, we 5 individuals will join it and form a special purpose company and will lend to it. So there are norms relaxed and it is flowing around there. So FDI is one of the sector where an entrepreneur are touching around there. That's one thing. Second is more of a merger and amalgamation. I think our state is quite low. If I'll throw you the figure, it's quite low. It's more like a merger and amalgamation happening it. I still remember one of my big client who was there in a leading CNG. I think 10 crore deal was done at Hyatt Residency while we were here having a coffee. और उसने वो paper napkin नहीं था. Okay, ठीक है, done. So the deals at US part are happening the same thing around there, 5 million, so around there. Just there is a magazine called financerworldwide.com where the data are published, where I'll throw the light of February 23, where the total deals of mergers and amalgamations were $173,000 US $1 million. I'm repeating it. And if you go to Asia Pacific, it was 51,031. But if you go to India share, it's just 9.89. I foresee that startups amalgamation will be there. Because when you go to startupindia.com, there are 90,000, more than 90,000 startup India registered. Have you searched it? How many of them are getting income tax benefit? Can you guess it? Not more than 800. Because there are rigid norms. Everybody wants to make a loss and sell off. Everybody wants to do like a Flipkart. अरे बंसल ने कमाया तो हम भी 1000 crore कमा लेंगे. Baiju ne kamaya to, but that norms are getting stricter now. This budget had made it stricter that if you are getting a more than face value, that will be added. That's a separate chapter. But I'm giving you the figure where compared to that, China has got 27.22% share in Asia Pacific only. On $51,023 million, China is dominating at still 27%, while we are just having a share of 9.83. So I think this is a second opportunity which you should look to it, that there is going to be an opportunity of consultants for meeting, merger and amalgamation, meeting, buy and thing. And third, I'll conclude, I'll just take 2 minutes around there. Risk assessment. I'm doing a lot of training for government as well as the entrepreneur on new enterprise creation. Is an entrepreneur doing the risk assessment before opening up his enterprise? This has been done in Europe. This was done, I learned in Italy when I went around there. There, before opening up a company or organization, they do the risk assessment. क्या ये company आगे जाके high risk में होगी, medium होगी, या low होगी? So that's called as a new enterprise risk assessment. Second risk assessment, there are 3 areas. I'll conclude it in 1 minute. I see a financial management mess. Startups are on default because of the mess in the financial management, as well as the government organizations. Public financial management of government is in mess. That's a 2. Now, the second is governance part. Internal controls are lagging behind. There's a lot of governance issues. So that is one of the area governance can be done. And third is a legal compliance. Just look at the website of Ministry of Corporate Affairs. If companies have not complied it, their names are struck out. I can give you the figure, more than 1 lakh companies have been struck out. So okay, these are my views on the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can have a round of questions if people have. So if you can by show of hands, if you tell us that you have questions. Okay, इनको Dr. Pahuja को दीजिए.
I have no question. Since I would like to leave, I will need your permission. And before I do that, I must thank IMCI for inviting me today. I felt happy that I came. I am indeed delighted to see both the organizations, AMA as well as my own IMCI, having grown that far, really. I am very, very happy to see that. AMA, of course, most of us had known it from Bank of Baroda and then Rustam Mill office and then Punjabi Hall and finally here, and that has also completed 25 years. It is only the other day when we had a havan for this campus. Indeed, I mean, we are proud of AMA. AMA have been doing a very great job, particularly in the field of management. And really, I mean, a lot of credit, and that has become a landmark in Ahmedabad. IMCI had been my own body. I had been involved with IMCI since 80s, I think, and with AIMA also, by the way, before AMA got born. And I remember meetings being held under the Management Consulting Association at Bombay and grew into institute. And the point I would like to mention here is that IMCI is able to bring in a change in the management consulting thinking. Earlier, as we all know, the management consultant should be literate people, powerful people, and so on and so forth. Even getting a business done from the government was also a consultancy. Anyway, rightfully, the Management Association of India thought rightly in that time, 91, that an institute should be formed which should not only grow the management consultancy field, but grow it in a strategic way. With the first thing obviously was certification. And as they did it, they have done a great job. The more happiness I get it, I had been observing IMCI from that level, and even I had the occasion of running the national office in 2002, 2003. That again is 20 years back. But what gives me pleasure is to see the wide range of consultants, management consultancy that has come into the play during all these 20 years. That was a time when the things were restricted. Of course, Indian economy was restricted, and now India has grown. with that growing, the whole field has grown. And rather it has, I would say it has outgrown, but it has grown beautifully well. And I'm very much pleased to see my members, fellow members and my friends who are doing exceedingly well in this management consulting procession. And my best wishes to the IMCI members, to IMCI and AMA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pahuja. Could you give the mic to the person behind you?
Namaste.
Thank you for coming today.
I'm Dr. Abhimanyu Samrat. It was a nice information, a lot of understanding about the G20 era, but what exactly the actions should be performed by a consultant like me? So information is there is an open scope, there is numbers and all, but what my organization should do exactly, what actions which we are not, like what is the bridge between the information there and what we can do in the potential in us. And there is one more question is like ICMI, this IMCI and there is QCI, Quality Council of India. They also accreditates the consultants. So why there is a need of different organization, or there is already in India, we have Indian organization who accreditates, who registers the consultants. So why we need two different bodies, and that's the question.
Devanshu, you want to take the last one first?
Hello.
We'll come here, we'll come there. Why two accrediting bodies?
So, just answering your second question, the last question, there is a framework of consultancy which is there globally, and there is an ethical framework, there is a materialistic framework, which there is no organization which suffices to that framework. So the parent body of IMCI, which is ICMCI, the International Council of Management Consulting Institutes, that is the only, so there are Big Fours, Big 8, Big 10, so there are many. But when it comes to individual consulting, there is no specific accreditation of individual consultants. So that's the only accreditation which globally ICMCI offers, and IMCI is the Indian body which offers the certification. So that is.
I think we should again go through this, because QCI is also having a registration with IF, International Accreditation Forum, and that's also having the international, their office is also in Geneva. Like that is also a stream, and there is another stream like that. This also having their like their fathers are in Geneva. So why these two different streams are?
No, but Samratji, we have CII, we have Gujarat Chamber, we have ASSOCHAM, we have many associations. It's up to you to decide which one works for you. The scope is different, the classification is different. Even within every associate, India is a huge country. With 1.3 billion, the population is the same as that of 3 times of Europe. Now, how many consulting management associations are there in Europe? Germany has their own, Belgium has their own, France has their own. We are more than 3 times there. To have one body for the whole country, ये तो अच्छा एक government है. नहीं तो otherwise it will be difficult to run a country of 1.3 billion people. Multiplicity, duplicity will happen, and the challenge is that every association has to compete to really gain footfalls, like people like you. When they ask the question, why A, B, C, what is the difference between A, B, C, and what works for me? So I don't think there is a why answer to this. It will happen, So Bharat Bhai, PK Modi and your neighbor. So Bharat Bhai.
I was just wanting to know a little more about this ESG consultancy, which is becoming a buzzword not only for the top 1,000 or maybe more organizations by SEBI and others. And you did make some passing reference about even as a part of risk management, ESG is covered, and environment, climate change is definite subject, governance, and social, of course, will cover a lot of HR as well as public things. Is there anything you can or anybody from the panel or audience.
What do you want to know
I don't
specifically?
know what is the scope and how does one go about ESG
Oh,
consulting?
that is huge. 1,000 companies are mandated to now file in with SEBI this year on BRSR, Business Responsibility, Social Responsibility. They have a matrix of 9 standards, and under each index, they have sub-indices. So altogether 256 points of data every company top 1,000 have to fill in. This problem is not required, is not limited to big, because under scope 1 and scope 2, they are covered. But the moment you introduce scope 3, all your suppliers, all your customers have also to report their carbon footprint, whether they are giving jobs to women, they are looking after their people, whether invalid people ke liye ramp hai, light hai, walking stick hai, all those things. And on the social and on the governance side, how many board meetings, are the directors independent? All your suppliers, so it deals with 1,000, but effectively that is dealing with something like 17-20,000. And next year or next to next year, SEBI will expand this top 1,000 mandatory list to all 6,500 and all their vendors and all suppliers. So this will constitute 70 to 80% of the total number of companies. So the scope is immense. All the big four are giving, there are at least, other than that, there are 7 companies in Ahmedabad who are giving all scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 carbon mapping services today. They are also coming under POSH and ladies. They are also coming and checking up what is your social profile. And on governance, there are few companies which are mainly chartered accounting companies that are giving these services, saying what is the frequency of your board, composition of the board and all those kind. So it has started already. So, once you have a big consultant, then they nominate others. So it has started. It's a very big area. I'm glad you pointed it out, but it's a blooming area. And consistent with this is the risk. I'm telling you, we don't know today which factory will go underwater. Our own factories. Nobody has done the risk analysis. Flash flood thase to kya pani aavse, kya band thai jase, where is the entrance, where is the exit, will the railway line come, will the truck come, nobody knows. What is going to happen, workers coming or not going. We saw it in pandemic, you will see it in heat waves, you will see it in flash floods, and you will see a series of problems coming. Food shortages. Fortunately, we have not experienced, but there are countries in Africa who are not getting food. They are migrating on foot for 500 miles, at 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers a day to look for food and water. So, if you look at the big issues behind these problems, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So, may I request, aapse jara mic, pacha. T-shirt, black T-shirt.
My question is to Pradeep sir. Actually, I am associated with the Ministry of Rural Development Department, which is into skilling and assessment. We have so many NGOs, where 4 to 5 NGOs I am looking after the financial consultant, but there is so much technical gaps where we can uplift them. So how can you throw your knowledge on that basis, or how you can support us so we can have some collaboration or tie-ups with you?
Yeah, I think skill development itself was a big initiative from the government side, and I personally involved in a lot of capability building. I do it for pharma as well as for non-pharma. I think there is a huge opportunity to skill people on various areas which you are talking about. There is a huge thing, probably we can talk offline and look at it, how we can work on those projects. Because a lot of my fellow trainers who are also involved in a lot of activities, so probably we can build in, or we can do it through the IMCI, we can work on that. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take just 1 minute, if you don't mind. Just to give a reply to Bharat Bhai, there is to governance a COSO model. If you can see on the website, it's more onto the control side. Committee for Sponsoring Organizations. So I think in US and this thing, they are making it somewhat useful. I think time will come up where the regulatory part may also ask the listed companies to some extent that please furnish the COSO report, which is part of a governance, wherein investors can know that the governance issues like thing are there. That is one thing. Second, Ministry of Corporate Affairs is also now investigating the companies into the related party transactions. Earlier it was not there, but as the governance issue has become so specific, they are looking to the balance sheets and they are asking questions how the related party transactions are being there. So we are moving forward onto the governance. Thank you.
So I think we had a great session, and I think we should conclude this session as of now. I just wanted to thank, right at the outset, President AMA Devesh Sir and Unmesh Dixit for their unwavering support for making this open forum possible, which had been a long pending session. Our Honorable Mr. Sunil Parekh for graciously accepting the responsibility for chairing and mentoring, moderating this session. Our distinguished one, Dr. Srivastava, Dangai sir just left, and Rajesh sir, who actually pushed it in the last moment, but thank you sir for coming in, and Jignesh bhai for his, very strong acumen from the financial point of view, and all all valuable views and the suggestions on such an important topic, which is basically we're just talking about in the backdrop of G20 consultancy and the role and the opportunities that may come in. So I think we had a good discussion, and this is point, yes, I totally understand, and the point made by the data is still lacking. Definitely we can work on the data. I would also like to thank our National President, Mr. Anuj Bhargava, and our Mumbai Secretariat to really help out with the G20 logo, which became a big challenge. And also a big thanks to my esteemed colleague Pradeep Kumar for his commendable, collaboration and coordination in making this event possible, along with our fellow committee members Bharat Bhagat, Jayesh Bhai, and Rajeev Padia. But last and least, my heartfelt thanks to all the attendees in this hall who have taken the time out of their busy schedule to come and be part of this important session. Your esteemed presence, valuable support have truly made this open forum possible. Your contribution to this event will undoubtedly have a lasting impact, and we are grateful for the participation. Thank you once again for all your unwavering support and participation for this important event. We look forward for a continued engagement for our future endeavors. Thank you. Thank you, sir.